We're going to call this meeting to order at 2:05. Joe Deere, would you do the blessing, please?
Let's get together, do the work for the Cherokee Nation people. Hope everybody has a blessed holiday. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Rex Jordan.
Here.
E.O. Smith. Keith Austin. Danny Callison. Julia Coates. Sean Crittenden. Joe Deere.
Aye.
Mike Dobbins. Johnny Kidwell. Darrell Legg. Wes Snowfire. Dora Petzkowski. Joshua Sam. Mike Shambaugh. Melvina Shotpouch. Condessa Teehee. Victoria Vasquez. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Need approval of the minutes from November the 15th regular meeting. Got a motion second, all approved? Reports, Mr. David Moore, Management Resources.
Good afternoon. Good to see everyone here. I know y'all have our report, and if I can answer any questions, I will sure try.
Anyone have any questions for David? Sean?
Hey, Dave, on the meat processing, just some details on that and a specific question. I've got different ones wanting to work there and just who they need to contact and kind of that process, but just details on, when we might start going and,
Yeah.
so,
I'm
thank you.
mainly involved in the construction end of it, but
Now, who's that? Who would I need to talk to?
probably Ethan Green right now. I know we're in the process of turning this thing over, but it's pretty close. I know they've hired a general manager. I guess he's a general manager of it right now. And they do have some employees, and they've been through training. So it should be, oh, you scared me.
I'm trying to tell you, Ethan Green or Shauna Miles, either one.
Shauna Miles, okay. Ethan or Shauna Miles. Thank you. Man, don't be,
Just the full
Good morning.
5,000 and ask for them?
yeah, probably the easiest.
What were those names again?
Shauna Miles and Ethan Green. It's, if y'all haven't seen it, it's pretty nice. I mean, it's first class.
You good, Sean?
Thank you. Yes, sorry.
Joe?
Hey, David, on the bison and the buffalo, I got asked, do you think in the future some of our traditionalists will be able to do a buffalo harvest?
That would be for Chad probably to answer on that one.
No, I was asking you.
I can't give you that right. No. I do know that our processing plant was designed to handle buffalo though, so if it does happen, we'll be able to.
Well, the harvest would have been, it'd be out in the field.
I
and
know,
that
but I'm
goes, so,
saying we
yeah.
would have the ability to process them. there.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
I'll ask Chadley. Thank you.
Let me know though. I'd like to harvest too. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Okay, appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Mr. Moore, couple questions. I know we're thinking about getting into actual running cattle, correct?
That's next group.
That's gonna be the next group
Yeah.
coming up. Okay. All right, well,
That'd
that's,
be Chad.
like shaking
That
my-
would be
Well,
Chad.
I know, yeah, it's just that I didn't
I
know if
know.
it'd come up with you because we have, what about hay?
Next group.
Next group still,
I
okay,
know.
perfect. Well, then I'll wait for the next group. All right, appreciate it. All right, thank you.
Any other questions for David? Think that's it, sir. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much. Y'all have a good afternoon.
Ginger Reeves, Real Estate Services.
Good afternoon. I believe you have my report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Have any questions for Ginger? Yes.
Hey, Ginger, I think this year we came up on our leases again for renewal. We submit those out back for bid, correct?
Yes, we did.
And did we already get those bids back in, or when's that time frame in on that?
The new bids that The whole process has already been completed.
Okay.
The new leases will begin January 1 of 2022.
Gotcha, all right, perfect. And then, do we have informational website, I guess, where one could go to and see where all the land is at that we're currently leasing, so that way people can be prepared for the next time the lease comes up and available?
Yes, we do, through GIS on the website.
GIS on the website, all right, perfect, thank
And
you.
every time, and we send those bid packets out. In 5 years, we'll be sending them out again. And they call the office, and we'll be happy to go over them if they want to come and review them there at our office as well, for those that don't have access.
Are our leases prioritized Cherokee first, Indian second, any other Indian tribes, and then anybody else? Or we prioritize our bids that way?
Yes, we do.
We do, okay, perfect.
Cherokee preference.
Cherokee preference, all right, appreciate it, Speaker, or Chair.
Any other questions for Ginger? Sir, Benny.
Yes, the community houses that we have in different areas, does Cherokee Nation own those, or is that, like the Rainbow House in Locust Grove, is it owned by the Cherokee Nation?
No.
It is not.
No. We'd have to look at each individual house that you're talking about or properties to let you know who owns it. It's either going to be us, if it's owned by Cherokee Nation, if someone says Cherokee Nation owns it, and if it's a housing situation, it could, very well could be Cherokee Nation Housing Authority.
Thank you.
I can check on that for you if you
Yes,
want me
please.
to. Rainbow Housing at
Yes, ma'am.
Locust?
District 15.
Okay. All right.
Dennis.
Well, good, let's see, it's afternoon, yeah. Good afternoon, Ms. Reeves. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for the just amazing work that is being done by both you and your department. You know, there was a situation recently where I reached out to your office, and the level of documentation that is kept by your office that is just right at your fingertips in order to answer some fairly complicated questions. It's really impressive. And I just wanted to commend you and your staff on the high level of work, attention to detail, and everything that you do to protect our Cherokee Nation properties. Thank you.
Thank you. I have an excellent staff with well over 200 years of experience in real estate, and I appreciate each and every one of them. I appreciate that.
Ms. Shortpatch? You up? You have a question? Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Next up will be Chad Harshall, Secretary of Natural Resources and Environmental Programs.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the council. I think you have the environmental programs report. If you have any questions specifically on that, I can take those and then perhaps move into my larger report for this afternoon.
Dennis.
Before we started on the information that you're about to share with us, I wanted to say that I have received several statements on the controlled hunt, and they have all just been overwhelmingly positive, glowing, just extremely happy and satisfied individuals who participated in those controlled hunts. I think I've forwarded a couple of those emails for you to share with your staff. And I've received a couple more since then, so I just wanted to share again publicly how much our citizens benefited from that controlled hunt, and how much they appreciated the opportunity, and how professional, efficient, and every other superlative you can think of they've used to describe the staff who assisted them with that.
And thank you for sharing that, and I will definitely pass that along to my staff. I know we've since wrapped up our hunt or controlled hunt season as of last weekend. We had a total of 7 that focused on youth, elder, veterans, and 1 out of state at large, and we are very proud of the work that our Wildlife Conservation Department put into this program this year. It's been a wonderful success, and we hope to continue that next year, and perhaps even expand it if staffing and resources allow. So thank you for that.
Darrell?
Chad, how many buck and how many doe were harvested off that property this year?
I don't have that answer right now. I know we did just wrap up the hunt. I know the last time we checked, we had about I think it was an 80% success rate with a 100% opportunity rate. So some folks passed on ones waiting for the next big one to come. But my understanding is it was exceedingly high compared to what you would have for a controlled hunt across the state or elsewhere. So I can get those numbers to you after we get them tallied directly, and share it to you by email.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Leo?
I was waiting till you got through with your report to say something about that, but I'm not sure that the staff didn't have more fun than everybody. I mean, and it carried over, and that's why everybody had such a good time down there. And I've also received nothing but big positives about that. And
Yeah,
they did a great job, and everybody had a good day. I think it's a great thing.
I mean, they definitely are committed to that project and, true outdoorsmen. So I'll share that along with them. And, again, thank you for that. I can move on to my report if that pleases.
We have one more question.
How many hunters did we have partake this year?
So we had a total of 7 hunts where we had 10 each. We had most folks show up. There were a few that didn't, so we had probably around 60. Again, I can get that final number ready for once we put together our final report for the whole program.
Okay, do you know how many deer were approximately harvested out of those 60 hunts?
It was, so each hunt we had 5 either sex tags and 5 doe-only tags. And so I don't have that number in front of me again until we get, the tally done, but I can share that with you at the next council meeting.
All right, perfect.
Jeff Quinty, Candace.
All right, and if I may, I can move into my larger report. There's been some developments that I'm sure you've probably seen by now or heard of about the hunting and fishing compact. As you now know, the governor of the state of Oklahoma has refused to execute a continued compact with both the Cherokee Nation and the Choctaw Nation. So that, of course, will be effective January 1 as our current compact expires December 31 of this year. So just by way of a little background, I know over the years, frankly, and over this year, I've tried to keep the council apprised as to the negotiations that we've had with the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation. And as by way of background, this compact was the first of its kind between a tribe and a state across the country. We executed our compact in 2015 with an effective date of 2016. That year, the following year in 2016, the Choctaw Nation likewise exercised a compact with the state. Initially, the compact term was for 3 years, and we extended it twice, both in 2019 and 2020, effective for 2020 and 2021. The program was definitely a win-win between the state and the tribe. And the mechanics of how this worked is we paid them $2 per each combination license to the state for all Oklahoma citizens, whether they be within the reservation boundaries or Oklahoma at large. In exchange, the federal government and the relationship triggered, millions of federal dollars to support wildlife conservation across the state and within our reservation boundaries. So, all in all, the value of that compact to the state up to this point has been in excess of $32 million. With the Choctaw Nation, I think it's been in excess of $6 million. So we're talking about a substantial sum of money for wildlife conservation. Earlier this year, as I mentioned to the council, we approached the state about an extended or longer-term compact instead of moving through these annual extensions, seeking to get additional tags and licenses and expanded opportunities for folks out of state. We had a number of productive conversations with the Department of Wildlife Conservation. We ultimately agreed to terms that had broad support across the agency and others. And that proposition was submitted to the governor's office for approval. The governor's office is the sole authority for approving or denying compacts with Indian tribes. And the governor notified us, I believe it was the week of the 3rd of December, formally, that the compact is rejected, both for us and the Choctaw Nation. No additional compact terms were offered, except that tribal citizens of the Cherokee Nation were free to purchase licenses at the prevailing rate, or in this case, $72 per license, which is what the value of it would have been, which is, you know, a very different amount than $2. And so that offer obviously was rejected. And as you've seen earlier in the notifications, we will move forward at the first of the year in a post-compact environment. Now, what does that mean? Under our current code, we have a regulatory scheme that manages hunting and fishing within our reservation boundaries. It's based on our historic treaties with the federal government, which our research indicate, obviously, that those rights were never extinguished. And I think we can see that very clearly by the McGirt decision and the progeny of cases that impact us that clearly indicate as such. So moving forward, January 1, our hunting and fishing compact will be in effect. So specifically what that means and what it currently requires is Cherokee citizens can hunt and fish within our reservation boundaries, subject to having a Cherokee Nation citizenship card, and also subject to bag limits and season dates that are incorporated by reference from the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation. What we aim to do in our compact is provide opportunities for Cherokee citizens to utilize our treaty reserved hunting and fishing rights, but also maintain a balance with conservation. It's came up a number of times over the months about why we would apply Oklahoma bag limits and season dates and within our reservation boundaries, and the answer in my mind is simple, because that's what's based on conservation science. So what that means is what you will see circulating soon is some additional action that we're going to take. Specifically, I'm going to be circulating frequently asked questions, because I know you're going to be asked a lot over the coming weeks, to kind of explain and help answer some of the common questions that I know that you folks are going to receive, and that should be coming very soon. We also are coordinating efforts with the Choctaw Nation, who similarly released their information today, and also a joint statement supported by all of the other 4 or 5 tribes. Recognizing that we all share treaty reserved hunting and fishing rights within our respective reservation boundaries, and perhaps there's opportunity where we could go at it together in some way, despite the state's rejection of those federal resources coming into play going forward. But maybe there's things that we can do together with exercising those rights. And so I don't have much in the way of detail, but I can say that we are working very closely with the other tribes to see what that arrangement could look like. As far as, let's see. As far as next step, we have communicated to the governor the end of the compact arrangement. I don't anticipate that he's going to change his position. We also hope that we can continue to work with the Wildlife Department, who we've had a beneficial relationship with, sharing this common goal of working and managing our shared resources. But that is the situation as it is today, and January 1 will be, the Cherokee Nation Code will be in effect, and we're still evaluating what additional regulations we might need to implement, and or if we need to bring any other legislative changes before this body going forward. But the idea and the goal is to make sure that we are continuing to allow Cherokee citizens to hunt and fish with their citizenship ID cards, or if we were to issue licenses in the alternative to that, but also to make sure that we are managing wildlife appropriately in coordination with the standards that apply based on wildlife management science. So I'm sure there's probably some questions. If so, I can take those now.
Joe Deere?
Yeah, I have 2 things. The first one, the hunting and fishing with the government, how close is this going to be related to the Cheyenne Arapaho case in, 1980, their hunting and fishing, where it showed the state didn't have the rights to tell them the state implications on that, on their own tribal reservation? Second thing, you can answer in whatever order you want to. The other one I brought up was that buffalo harvest, if we could do that later, or maybe put that somewhere in the book and think about it.
Sure. Let me take that back to kind of talk through what that looks like, particularly with some of our cultural folks. I do know that we have long-term plans, or even, well, actually, rather shorter midterm plans to utilize buffalo through the meat processing facility. But let me take that back and see if I can get a better, more focused answer for you.
Yeah, it just came up for some traditionalists about that for seniors and veterans, it's a good event, and some of you guys have probably been involved in that. So I know we're pushing it, but just to put it on your map somewhere.
Absolutely. And in terms of your question regarding the Cheyenne Arapahoe case, I don't recall the specific factual and legal details of that case, but I would assume it is similar to hunting and fishing right cases that have occurred across the country.
Right.
Over, decades, if not hundreds of years. It is our position, based on McGirt, based on our treaty language, that we do have inherent rights to hunt and fish based on a number of treaties that we negotiated with the United States of America, over a number of years. So there could be some comparisons. There's likely to be litigation, and we shall see how that shakes out. And I think we're all on our end pretty confident that the treaties say what they say and they mean what they mean. So.
Okay, I was just relating that to what you were saying, so, because I think it's going to be an easy precedent when you base it on case law or the USC codes and stuff like that.
Sure.
So, again, he's a failure, but, we do what we do. So I appreciate it. Chad, keep working, brother.
Sean?
Chad, what'd you say, January 1 now?
Correct.
Sounded like wanted to go fishing January 1, or do we have to wait on something else?
Correct. So the current compact that we have expires December 31 of this year. January 1 of 2022, the current Cherokee Nation Code will be in effect. That code provides that Cherokee citizens with the appropriate identification in their citizenship card would have a license to hunt and fish within our reservation boundaries, subject to Oklahoma bag limits and season dates, which we have incorporated by reference. So you could go fishing on January 1, but it would be consistent with whatever wildlife restrictions are in place across the state or across our region at that particular time.
Well, that's big news there. Thank you.
Sir.
Chad, is it only the Cherokees and the Choctaws? Didn't the other tribes also have compacts of the same nature with the state, or not?
No, the only two hunting and fishing compacted tribes in the state are the Cherokee and the Choctaw. So we executed ours in 2015, effective 2016, so for 5 years now. And they executed theirs 2016, I think effective at the end of that year. So the other tribes are not currently compacted, even though I think there's been some discussion, but it's never occurred.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Keith?
Secretary Harshup, I know you spoke about just having your citizenship card as the evidence of license. Is there an opportunity for us to possibly apply for these federal funds for conservation to the fact that the state was receiving money because of our licensing? Our licenses, the number of licenses, is that correct?
That's correct.
And if we were to issue those same licenses to our population, would we have the standing to apply for those conservation funds within the Cherokee Nation instead of the state of Oklahoma?
Unfortunately, no. So the way the law currently reads, and that doesn't mean that we're not going to propose changes in that regard, but currently the way the law reads is there's two federal laws, one applying specifically to fishing, one is applying specifically to hunting. Those laws assess a certain amount of tax on ammunition, firearms, tackle that is collected by the federal government and then distributed across the country to states with tribes excluded based on a number of factors, including population, land mass, and licensing, with licensing being weighed pretty heavy in that formula. Because of that, the formula with our increased licenses, so for example, this year, we've issued 127,000 combination hunting and fishing licenses that triggers funding from both of those pools. That is a large number compared to the population, the land mass that triggers all of this federal money, diverts it from the whole, I guess, bucket of funds specifically to Oklahoma. So, over the course of this compact, we understand that figure to be in excess of $32 million. And it is an issue that we are going to try to propose changes to. However, it is not a regulatory issue, it's a statutory issue. So it would require congressional action, and that is a heavy lift as compared to rulemaking, where you could have a regulatory change, but it is something on our radar, and long-term, I don't see why tribes should be excluded from those allocations, even though unfortunately right now the language is limited to that of the state. So.
Okay, thanks.
Chad, have we thought about, are we going to publicly let the state of Oklahoma, the people that live here, are they going to know exactly what Governor Stitt is cutting himself out of?
Absolutely. So this morning, we formally transmitted our letter memorializing the termination, what we understood the benefit to be, the mutual benefit of this compact, and what we intend to do going forward to the governor. We issued also a press release that is in the general public with support of all 5 tribes, suggesting the same thing and outlining, kind of contouring the contours of the issue. I'm in the process of preparing and circulating frequently asked question documents and notifying citizens across the state as best we can. So there will be more to follow in terms of getting out the message to everyone that we can between now and the end of the year. So I think this issue is going to have enough traction that it's going to travel quite a bit and far and wide.
Like the news stations and the papers, and these people are all going to be able to print this story about how much that he's losing the state of Oklahoma.
I believe that is happening as we speak.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Harshaw, this is, my opinion, exciting news. We get some of our Indian sovereignty back. We get the right to hunt and fish the regulation limit based off of the state. Now that we're saying that we're going to emphasize what the state has already used their science and research on what they have for bag limits and tag limits. So that way I think I can speak on behalf of all conservational hunters and fishermen out there that we respect our waters, we respect our lands and the animals that we take there. And it's really exciting to be able to see that we're affording those full rights onto our tribal members within inside of the reservation. Now, two things is, I know you had mentioned possibly working with other tribes. I think that's a great thing. I think that this body, at least from my seat, would be very supportive on working with our legal counsel and your office of trying to draft up some sort of MOA between other tribes. So that way we can garnish back at least almost half the state to where our citizens here can go over to Choctaw Nation and hunt down there. They can go over to Chickasaw and vice versa. I think that work out great, and I think everybody who lives outside the reservation, if they want to come here and travel and they have friends or family they can stay with, they can hunt and fish our waters. Before they didn't have that option, now they have that option. But my big question goes into, beyond that work that we need to put in, is we have a lot of people that don't have, that do not have tribal membership cards inside of our reservation. One is, I would hate to see anything happen to our brothers and sisters of the Cotuas, so I want to make sure that we afford them the same governing rights that we have here, that our citizens have to hunt and fish the waters, that somehow we're not going to have a problem of issuing them a ticket because they're not a tribal Cherokee Nation citizen, they're a member of the Cotuas. But more importantly, the state citizens. There are a lot of them that generate a lot of funds when they purchase tickets to the state that went back to help our conservational efforts here in the reservation. We need to make and look at a comprehensive charging, how we can go about charging those non-citizens a license to be able to take game and fish within our boundaries. I think it's going to come into a big effect very quickly as we have scheduling probably issues with tournaments. I love to fish tournaments, but if we host a tournament and tribal members there they're fishing, I guess, waters inside of our reservations, they don't have a tribal exemption because they're not a tribal member. Now, this where it gets kind of that cross-section between being a state citizen and a tribal citizen. Are we just going to opt out of them if they are taking animals outside the purview of what we believe is correct? How are we going to work with the state on that? It becomes another criminal issue, I think, that we see right now going on of who has what, and I think we need to be really proactive and aggressively quick to try to prevent those things from happening.
So in regard to your first statement, this suggestion that somehow this compact or the expiration of this compact and us adopting our tribal code going forward is somehow minimizes or diminishes sovereignty, I don't think that that's accurate. I think that whenever you look at the very notion of one government entering into a compact with another government, setting forth rules, regulations, jurisdiction, I think that is among one of the most fundamental acts of sovereignty. So I don't know that I agree with that statement. Secondly, whenever we look at working with other tribes, that is something that we are currently exploring. But I think when you look at it in the context of treaty rights, it's a little bit more complicated than maybe that oversimplification. So treaty rights generally attach to tribal citizens within a tribe, within a specific area, right? So a treaty right that exists within the Cherokee Nation for Cherokee Nation citizens doesn't necessarily attach to a non-Cherokee Nation citizen or Native American in that area. There's some nuances that you have to work through, which is part of what the conversation would be with other tribes, figuring that out. Secondly, this idea that because we are exercising our own hunting and fishing code within our reservation boundaries, that is to the exclusion of any non-Cherokee or any non-Indian is likewise not accurate, because hunting and fishing rights for Cherokee citizens are guaranteed, and they do attach, but that doesn't mean that it's to the exclusion of every non-Indian in the state, such that a non-Indian or non-Cherokee hunting or fishing in Grand Lake with a state fishing license is perfectly permissible. It is more or less a notion of shared rights to hunt and fish, with that guaranteed by treaty being guaranteed, but also because of the nature of our treaties and our land, you know, there still will be Oklahoma citizens who are non-native being able to hunt and fish on their property or into public waters, public lands.
So we wouldn't have the ability to charge a licensing fee to a non-tribal member?
No, I don't believe that that's true. Now, could we, well, hold on, let me qualify that. Could we charge a licensing fee for someone coming and hunting on our lands under our code or Native American? Sure. But that is part of what would be discussed among an intertribal agreement. Now, can a regular citizen of the state of Oklahoma come and hunt and fish at Grand Lake with a state-issued license? Most certainly.
Okay, I think there's some more investigation I want to do on that, because I think there's some opportunity that we have there, something I've been discussing for a while with several people, and it's something that I've also expressed here from the council floor as being an opportunity to grow our sovereignty, and individual sovereignty is being expressed more so now than it was with the compact, but the governing sovereignty of the tribe is being able to harness more control of its area, and I think that might be possible with working with non-tribal members as well. So it's very interesting. I think it's going to be very moving forward, probably at a quick pace to cover up some of the issues there, but I'm looking forward to it, and I'm hoping that, you know, if there's anything that comes up from ideas you come up from your office, and likewise to communicate that through the council and through our legal to be able to try to see what kind of expressed opportunity we have here for our citizens. So, all right, appreciate it, Chair.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yeah, go.
This is interesting when you start getting into some of these questions, but if you start applying McGirt to some, or Hogner to some of these questions, you know, you're getting into who has jurisdiction again with Indians, who has jurisdiction against non-Indians. I mean, that's not going to change at all. I mean, it is what it is right now, and for us to regulate non-Indians, that's kind of been the whole problem with everything that we've had from whenever the chicken houses went in, and we tried to, we couldn't exert our sovereignty there because even though they're owned by non-Indians. So how do you regulate a non-Indian? I mean, and with jurisdiction-wise, when we're talking about the only way that we can do that is compact. Is that correct?
Yes and no. So, this topic is incredibly complex when you talk about shared.
I understand, but when you're talking about the criminal part, that's not going to change anything from what McGirt says it is, correct?
Correct.
So, then when you get into violation of hunting and fishing laws by Indians and non-Indians, this isn't something that's the game changer that's going to trump McGirt. I mean, the problem is going to be how, if you don't compact and give somebody jurisdiction over non-Indians, how Can we do that? I mean, we haven't been able to do that on our own in law enforcement, and this is if it's a crime, how are you going to do it now? I mean, it really doesn't, to me, it doesn't change anything. I mean, you say it could or it couldn't, maybe depending on where it's at, but in the end, whoever has jurisdiction in a criminal situation has jurisdiction. I mean, this doesn't change that, and there's going to be some, I guess, eccentricities with this that are going to have to be worked out, but what happens if the state, and I guess that would be the governor, says, hey, we don't recognize your tribal sovereignty as to have hunting and fishing licenses. I mean, you're talking about, there could be somebody come up to you and say, West No Fire, I don't care if you got that or not, you can't be on Lake Tenkiller without a fishing license. We don't recognize that. I mean, that's the problem, that I guess if somebody would want to be a jerk about it and just say, hey, we're not going to give you anything and we're not going to accept anything because this is how we feel it is. I mean, he could really be a jerk about this, and it could cost some citizens some major headaches if they're saying, hey, our game wardens can go do this. I mean, we're not listening to what you have to say. So we have been good stewards with our land. And, we have compacted, we have done those things to get along. And now somebody who doesn't want to get along in any way with us could really make it difficult on us. And whether he's right or wrong, he's proved in the past it doesn't matter because he's going to do what he wants to do. So, gosh, this could be kind of ugly. I mean, if he kind of tries to turn this around on us and say that we can't do this, you know what I'm saying?
I think you're exactly right, and I think the McGirt comparison, or McGirt-Hogner comparison you're making is no different in this situation. And so,
Yes.
As stating, to Councilman No Fire, this is not a situation that could be overly simplified. It is a situation that parallels in a lot of ways to what we've already been experiencing with. So when you look at the relationship we have with law enforcement across our reservation, we have cross-deputization agreements, in which we do have one with the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation. Now, if a non-Cherokee or non-Indian, let's say, is hunting and fishing at Grand Lake, they're going to be subject to the state regulations or state wildlife laws, and they would be cited and arrested in accordance with what the state laws require. If a Native American is hunting and fishing in violation of our law, they'll be subject to jurisdiction in tribal court. It's no different than any of the other criminal codes that we have or any of the other regulatory and enforcement actions that we have. It's just in the context of hunting and fishing. And with the most recent development of our compacting relationship having come or expected to come to a close.
Well, I hope things work out, and I know you guys will do whatever's necessary to protect our rights. You always have, and we just thank you for keeping us updated. And tough deal, but it's going to work out. It's just that, and it's going to be through a lot of people's hard work from our side and other tribes. I still like the fact that, man, we are so much stronger when we stick together. I mean, we are. So, but thank you, sir.
And Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that, and I can assure you that we are up to the task, and we are ready, willing, and able to move post-compact and beginning as 2022 approaches. So.
Mr. Harsher, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think the Oklahoma Wildlife Department gets any funding from the state of Oklahoma at all. It comes from the feds, from the tax on the ammo, the gas, the boat motors, the gun sales. So with this, throwing this compact away, what's that going to do to the number of game wardens they're able to hire, the conservation? Because, we think of hunting deer, but, to be real honest with you, the hummingbirds, the monarch butterflies, the bats, I mean, these are things that the Oklahoma Wildlife does that this money actually goes into fund. So, I mean, that's a concern with me if we're not going to do our own conservation, where we're going to be if they have to cut back.
You're correct that the Wildlife Department is funded, is not funded through any general appropriations from the legislature, but generally through license sales and this federal funding formula that comes down annually. This is going to impact their funding. Now, 127,000 licenses is a great number and a great a great way to capture those federal funds, but they still will receive some funding. And, the impact that this is going to have over the coming years will most certainly be felt by that agency. And I can only hazard to guess that they're not happy about it. So it is, you're correct in all of those assessments, sir.
EO, do you have a question?
Yes, more of a statement, Joel. On the Buffalo deal about the traditionalists, I'd be all for that. I don't think I'd like to watch them when they do it, but we really need to get with our herd manager and talk to him about it, because, like when they work them, that's why they don't open it to the public, because when they work them, their eyes roll back in their head and they go crazy. So I don't know if they go up and start shooting on the land, they might run through some fences or something, end up another county over. I don't know, but we'll visit with him, and I can call him, talk to him, and get back with you, and anybody else wants to. But I think that'd be great, but it might be scary too. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Joe?
Hey, Speaker, I was going to say, with this thing that he's doing with the governor and all this, it's obviously going to take an attorney who knows like Indian case law with the hunting and fishing rights. I mean, there's another case, the Montana versus USA, 1981, that specifically talks about tribes having jurisdiction over non-natives and whether they can fish on there. So I know the McGirt was 2020 is where it was cited. So these cases are all going to be precedent to all the new cases. So that's why I'm saying I think it's going to be interesting. He knows. I mean, obviously, they're going to have to get somebody that's specific on these cases, whether it's hunting, fishing, land. You can do cases all day. Johnson, McIntosh, you can just quote them all day because they go back forever. And I think they're going to have to figure out how to make an accumulative thing and what's right, especially specifically on Cherokee Nation when it comes to hunting and fishing. And, then you have the monetary value and then compacts. And so that's what I want to bring up, just because there's so many Indian case laws concerning this and our rights and our jurisdiction and treaties. So I think it's going to go on for a little bit, which we talked about. So that's all I wanted to say, was just a comment. So, but yeah, thank you again.
And if I may respond to that, I mean, we've already done a fair amount of legal work on this topic, and not to get into a public forum discussions of legal strategy, but we do have some of the best Indian country lawyers in the country, in-house.
Yep.
And existing relationships. So I'm not concerned that we won't have the right folks in the room to make these decisions.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
One thing I was going to follow up with, because I know he mentioned a couple of case laws, and that's a good thing to be mindful of, is I think Speaker hit the nail on the head whenever we kind of looked at this McGirt-Hogner thing, but also previous case law is a little bit different when it comes to hunting and fishing versus criminality. Is general, I guess, is the best way of saying, because hunting and fishing rights are exclusive to the regulations of the waters and the land belonging to that tribe. So we can't give that to the state because we don't have a compact now. So they can't enforce their regulations unless we allow them to. I know that they have regulations over their own citizens, but not in our reservation, because the reservation under hunting and fishing is different. Because, like for instance, the highway traffic here, that's paid for by state tax dollars. So the state regulates that. Well, now we have a conflict of tribes and state regulating that highway of the speed limit. An animal you can't regulate because it's not put in place by the taxpayers. It is a living, breathing thing. And the way the federal government's had to view it is that that living thing, the law goes with it wherever it moves, whether it's to your land, your land, your land, your land. The regulation of that animal is with it. You don't own it. It's owned by whoever regulates it. The state used to have that regulation prior to McGirt. Now the tribe has that regulation because it belongs to that Indian tribal government. So we get to regulate that. So if it goes on your property, your property, your property, there's the regulational tether to it. So if that deer jumps from one reservation to the other, that would create whose regulation body that is, because that deer doesn't belong to Choctaw Reservation or the state of Oklahoma. It belongs to wherever it's at that time. Same way if I shoot one on the state line, I got to worry about if it ran over to the other state. That's going to be something that's going to be dealing with on who has regulations on it. So I think it's very important that, I know you have a good team built, but it's also indicative that we are the ones that create the laws and the regulations. And we have a legal expert. I think it's also good to go to him and also talk with him and also look at how we may to do a temporary funding for a legal advisor to come in that has actual experience with reservational issues now. So that way we can get ahead of it and he can bring our legal up to date and we can start working on trying to hurry up and put some things to rest on it before we find our Attorney General's office back in the federal court case costing us more dollars. I mean, if we've got all these case laws that are out there that prove what we have, we need to hurry up, find someone that's gonna help our legal out, develop a law code, pass it, done, and if anyone wants to step over us, we say, this is ours. This is what case law and the federal government has said, this is our reservation, this is what we can do and hunt and fish with it. This is how we can give permits to people who aren't citizens to be able allowed to have permission in and hunt and fish with our reservation. I think it's just all kind of things out there that we could look at, and that's kind of one of the things I wanted to bring up and bring up to this council is kind of a opportunity zone that if we need to do that, let's jump on it. You know, that's something that we're here paid for by our constituents to do. So appreciate it. Appreciate it, Chair.
If I may respond to that, a great amount of what you said is just not legally accurate. It would take a long time to unpack a lot of those assessments of what the law and the fact are in this case. You know, we have, I believe we have the team in place necessary. You know, having worked through McGirt, which is one of the most complicated Indian law topics of modern history, we've worked through that, and this is, while slightly different in the context of hunting and fishing rights, but no different in the context of examining treaties such as those establishing reservation boundaries and treaties such as those analyzing hunting and fishing rights. So I appreciate your assessment and nothing further on that, I guess.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm not a liar here. I'm not making false claims. I'm just saying that this is some opportunity that we can have here. So appreciate it. Appreciate it, Chair.
Johnny.
Thank you, Chair. Secretary Harshaw, I just want to kind of bring this back around just for a second and say that, you know, this compact and the loss of it truly is a hit to a lot of the, especially the at-large citizens that were able to hunt and fish throughout Oklahoma because of the compact. Now, make no mistake about it, this is painful, right? And I've gotten a lot of calls on it already. You've got that Cherokee Nation citizen in Lawton, Oklahoma, who was able to go out and hunt and fish as he or she pleased, is no longer able to do, will no longer be able to do that based on the cancellation of this compact. Hunting and fishing on the Cherokee Nation reservation is a great thing, and I applaud the efforts to move forward to that. But let's not lose sight of a holistic approach to this, to also keep the at-large citizens included in this process. Because if we just go to the reservation, we're still excluding a lion's share of the Cherokee Nation citizens who also like to hunt and fish. So as we move forward in this, please take that all into account, which I know you will. But I feel the need to say that because our conversations have always been toward how to expand the compact of what we already have to have at-large citizens from outside the state to be able to come in for like a holiday license for 2 weeks. That's now all kind of thrown in the trash can, right? So as we move forward, let's not lose sight of the other, you know, 2/3 of the Cherokee Nation citizens who may or may not want to be able to hunt and fish and come back to Oklahoma or to the reservation. Let's also try to make it easier on those people as well as we move forward.
Absolutely, and you know, we've had a lot of conversations, you and I, about what the at-large component looks like, and one of the elements that we included in our proposal to the state was expanded access for out-of-state at-large, particularly in the fishing arena. And so we made that proposal, and you're exactly right that, you know, 127,000 Cherokee citizens are going to be impacted by this, many of which are at-large within the state of Oklahoma. And unfortunately, that was the decision of one man, and that's Governor Stitt. And we presented a proposal that had a number of options, including redirecting conservation efforts within the reservation boundaries, expanded access, expanded opportunities. But the current environment in our relationship with the governor's office, it wasn't rejected. And we will certainly consider and try to make all opportunities we can available to Cherokee citizens wherever they may live.
Yes, sir. From my seat, I see that your office and and the Cherokee Nation in general has done their level best to try to make this work. I applaud your efforts. I'm sad to see that it's not going to go through, and I think that, you know, we're in a sad state of affairs, having lost this compact because of the good that it was doing across the state of Oklahoma for our Cherokee Nation citizens. Chair.
Any other questions for Chad? It's got to be quick. 2 seconds.
All right, 3 seconds, how about 10? Listen to everybody and listen to what you have to say. You know, it is unfortunate that it didn't work, but just like McGirt, you know, this is an opportunity. I mean, because it didn't work, this is our opportunity, and I think we need to make the best of it. You know, if we are going to be our own stewards now, we tried to be good stewards to the state, but if this is going to be our deal, let's make it our deal. Let's make it great for our people. Let's take what's ours. I mean, we have treaties that's saying that it is ours. Let's take it. I mean, they've given us an opportunity. We've tried to get along with him, but apparently he doesn't want to. So I just think it's important that we take what's ours. If that's the way it's going to be, and it's not going to be that way, let's just take what's ours and do what's right for us. So that's all I got to say.
And we're up to the task, and our goal is to put together our regulatory program through the laws that exist to reinforce and enforce the inherent rights we have by treaty to hunt and fish within our lands. And so we're moving forward in that vein. The compact was an opportunity to align our various regulations, but it is what it is, and we're going forward in the absence of that. And one thing I would like to say, because this has came up quite a bit and will be included in the materials that should be circulated here soon with frequently asked questions and other items, is none of this creates a private right of entry on individual property land. That comes up quite a bit. The absence of a compact doesn't give someone the right to hunt on private property. And so I know that question is going to come up on your end. Nothing in our law does that, and nothing in our compact or absence thereof would create that private right of entry. So, and with that, any other questions? And I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Any other questions for Chad? I see none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in. Old business done, pending new business. Sean, you want to take that?
Yes. Of course, it's the last paper on here. All right, this is a resolution authorizing Cherokee Nation to lease tribal trust land to Delonaghy School, Independent School District number 29. Put that in the form of a motion.
Got a motion and a second? Sean? I'm sorry. Wes?
Just a quick question. What is the purpose that we're leasing this land to Delonaghy School for?
They are going to build, is the intent, a facility. It's my understanding, just on some of this land closer to the highway is my understanding. Just a nice facility for lots of Cherokee kiddos. It's a great thing.
So they're building a new school there? Is that what it's going to be?
Just expanding. After our acquisition of the immersion school there in Greasy, you know, these ideas, and it's down the road a ways, but just bettering the school, and that's a big deal for me, and kind of like that old commercial, that's enough for me if it's going to better the lives of Cherokee students, and I live right there amongst them. So hope you support it.
Did we have, I don't know if Ginger's around still, but we waived the right to negotiate compensation satisfactory to the tribe. We're leasing it for $1 a year to them. They're a state-funded school. They have access to funds more than $1 a year. I'm just trying to evaluate how we're coming up with that. That's I guess what I was asking. What are we using this for? It's $1 a year. Are they making money off of it?
It's my understanding it will be an educational institution. And as far as the compensation, that's what a lot of times we'll put that amount on community buildings. And I know that it will be a majority of Cherokee students that will be at that facility.
So we just did the Greasy acquisition. That's supposed to be the language place, right? We're going to use that for the place for language.
That's my understanding.
And then Delonaghy School, is it still going to be operational when it starts using this new facility?
Yes.
Yes, it will be.
Yes.
And then what are we calling, is this, are they going to call it Delonaghy something or another too? I know that there's just
I would
community
imagine,
members there, Greasy.
I would imagine it would be.
Delonaghy's Delonaghy.
but-
Would you like to
Area.
address that to the staff?
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed part of the conversation, but I think I understand your question. We're still talking about two separate school districts. Delonaghy will remain Delonaghy School, and the Greasy School site will be a part of our Cherokee language program. And if we someday choose to charter that as well, that would be an option, or whatever direction that may take. But we're talking about two separate districts here.
Okay. So what is this going to be used for? I didn't know. Is it a school? I haven't got that.
This property will be used as a school, yes, sir.
Okay, and is it going to be, it's going to be state funded through Delonaghy,
It's going to
right?
be state funded through Delonaghy School District, yes.
So we're going to give them a place to build for $1 a year.
Well, that's, the resolution is for Delonaghy to explore that option, yes.
Okay, I'm just curious, whenever we give up something, I'm all about, getting our healthcare, our education expanded. I just
Way down
trying to
in-
get to the
way
bottom
down
of what
in
it was.
Adair
I
County.
seen it and I'm like, wait a second, we're leasing to a school for $1. What are we doing here, y'all? I don't know nothing about it. I just got brought forward. So I'm glad some more explanations coming out. I'd like to know more about it and more about stuff like this that comes up before I agree to pass it. Because like I said, I don't know all the terms. It's subject to 50 years. Is it a K through 8th grade? Is it something that's going to affect Sequoia High School? I know that Delonaghy School principal, superintendent's also the board of Sequoia High School. Now he's getting expansion for $1 a year lease for his own school. By Cherokee Nation, there's just too much, there's a lot flowing through there that I don't know a whole lot about.
It's a great thing for Adair County and Cherokee kids. Let's vote on that, dude.
No, I know, no offense, that's a great thing for Cherokee County and our kids. I just like to know how. That was all I was trying to ask about it. So, because I could say, this is great for Cherokee kids, but you don't know what's inside of it. It may be a rock. It might hurt them. So that's why I'm asking those questions like I do. So appreciate you coming and giving them a little bit more information about it. I'd like to know more about the lease and what it's agreeing to, how big the building is going to be, how big the school expectations and the back work that Delonaghy School probably had done in order to try to make this kind of request. Did we have stuff like that on file, Ginger?
So, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, again, this is Delonaghy School. We won't have input on what their expansion or how big the building is. I mean, they're still going to be raising their own funds for this. They can apply. Delonaghy is one of the only schools in the state of Oklahoma that can apply for Impact Aid construction funds because of their percentage of Native population is so high.
Right.
I believe he intends to do that. So, not sure if his plans are immediate to construct any facility. I think this is very early in planning stages on their part for Delonaghy School.
Now, Councilor Crittenden, what have your constituents been saying to you about this expansion and building a school over there? Is there going to be, like I said, it's going to be separate, I guess. We got one students over here. They're not going to be pulling students to go over here, or
They didn't
there's
really
no
get into
families.
that.
I don't know if families in that district. I don't know what you've heard from them.
So-
Well, they say great for our Cherokee kids and go for it, is
And
what
the-
I've been hearing.
They had, I
Way
guess,
down in Adair County.
they have a school board meeting, I guess, over this already.
School board
Sure.
meeting. Now that's a separate thing,
Yeah,
like you're saying, right, Corey?
Yeah, it's a totally
I mean,
separate thing. I honestly believe that Delonaghy School's intention is to move their school site. So they're not talking about expansion, they're not talking about adding onto high school grade levels or anything, they're just talking about new school sites.
So Delonaghy School is now moving from where it's at to this lease place here.
Maybe.
That's what we need to have answered, guys, before we go past this. Because
Nah, let's vote on it today, and I hope it's.
Whoa, I'm just simply bringing it up, Sean.
Okay.
There are a lot of people that are Indians from our Indian community. They depend on this accessibility for something close distance to them, and also community. I know that there was an acquisition between Greasy and Delano East School that was a lot of issue. First, it was supposed to be Marietta, then it became this whole big issue here. I don't know if I can pass something like this. It's not because I don't believe that I would like to see more expansion into our education for Delonaghy, but I also want to make sure I'm mindful of the constituents there that you guys represent. I know you have an ear with them, but
That's what we do.
I know that, but it's also something that I don't know all the information about, neither do you. So it's something that's a concern for me to pass something without knowing all the information. That's all there is to it. So, but I'm glad to see that there seems to be some work to try to get expansion and building something new. I just want to know how it affects the community. So appreciate it. Appreciate it, Chair.
Do you have a
Any other
question,
questions for me, Chair?
Councilor Nofar, I was going to tell you that my understanding, it's usually $1 a year. At the schools that I've been accustomed to, if we lease something from the city, we lease something from the state government. If, different places, it's usually $1 a year, and that's kind of just so that they don't own it, but it's leased, and it goes on from there. So $1 a year is pretty normal when they do these things. That was all I was going to
Yeah,
say.
okay, appreciate it. Yeah, because I know that Greasy School set on a lease property, I think, or a usage claim where they used it for, as long as it was used as a school, they didn't go back to the original owners. I think that was one of the things with Greasy School on it there. So I was just kind of gathering that. I'm glad you are able to clear that up, Counselor Callison.
Josh?
Yeah, I was just clarifying, we are talking about two separate things. Greasy, they were using that facility for some of the overflow when they consolidated. So this plan is for Delonaghy to better their school system. So if you visit their school campus, you know that with all that's going on there, they're benefiting their community with all kinds of programs. So they do need better facilities, better infrastructure, and that's what this is for.
How far is the driving distance from the Delonaghy School to the new site of where it will be?
Not, like, probably less than 5 minutes.
So 6 miles or so, something like that? Yeah.
Back and forth to Dialogue, it probably should be recognized before the back and forth.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm just going to have to vote no until I get my further explanation. Appreciate it.
Motion passes. Announcements. Next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, January the 10th at 2 o'clock. I need one more motion. Got a motion?